All right, I believe we are live. Welcome to Top Tech Heroes, everybody.
Hello, all you UFS creeps out there. Welcome to our show.
Welcome to hello to everyone on Twitch. Hello to everyone on YouTube, because this episode should be up after we finish streaming tonight.
I didn't think we did that anymore.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties. We had some misconfigurations, and yeah, now we should be getting automatically recorded and archived, and should be available to be exported. And will also be available
Yay!
video on demand on Twitch afterward. So you want to lead us off with the news, Sean?
All right, let's start with some news. So, we're going to report on the same news we've been reporting on the last couple of weeks for some of these things. No prize support. Still, fingers crossed we'll have some new prize support for the Amsterdam PTC next month on the 27th. And hopefully we'll have, if not then, gosh, I hope we have prize support for the Nationals event in October, which I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself there, but it sure has been a minute. We now have more months in without prize support this year than we have months with prize support. And I don't know about you, Kevin, it's really affecting, my wanting to play right now, especially in this during spoiler season when there aren't any major events really to worry about.
Yeah, it does. It's a little. It feels like there's not quite as much passion for the game as there has been in the past right now. I was pretty excited after the coming back from the PTC that I won and all of the other good stuff. Found some cool ideas to build decks around, but then I've been looking for some Octagon games for the past couple days, and no one's there to play me. It's kind of a bummer.
I mean, it's hard to really be excited about playing UFS right now because, we've already got, this. We know what's going on with the set. We know that it's coming out soon, and it's hard really to be testing when you don't know what the meta is going to be, unless you're going to Amsterdam.
I mean,
Because otherwise, there's
yeah, I've never been a big one in oh man, what's the new meta gonna be? I just take what I have in front of me and see what's the coolest thing I can do with it. Like for example, one of the decks I've been wanting to play is actually an active treason based deck that I haven't actually think I've seen anyone put that card into a staging area against me, let alone myself. So the spoilers we do already or the new promos we do have, I think are still a bit underutilized, and I found a pretty cool use for that with the card Violent out of Iori's support. You get to just draw a card whenever I active treason someone. It's kind of a cool little engine, but haven't found out if it's actually good or not yet. So
let's see other things in the news. Let's get out of the doom and gloom for a minute here, and do remind ourselves that Battle for Power comes out in 29 days.
yep.
Now, it became a lot more real for me this week, Kevin Broberg, Battle for Power, because I had to shell out a whole bunch of money to get my pre-orders in.
It's
So it
actually
became about
happening.
$5,000 more real.
Let me see if
So
if I can
I'm
get
really
like the Rand Paul or the Ron Paul. It's actually happening. Boo 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 boo.
So we know that's coming out. They announced a pre-release, I think, for August 19th, with
All
a
right.
full release happening on the 26th. Now, as a reminder to folks out there, if you're going to Amsterdam, too bad you don't get to play with your new cards.
Yep, you'll be locked in the old meta game, locked with your Red Horizon cards, but it'll be, I believe, the last chance, right? Is that rotates out after
It-
that?
Yeah, that is like the last hurrah for Red Horizon, and hopefully the cards from Red Horizon that aren't either banned or being reprinted will be gone for a good long time. Not necessarily even forever, but I feel like in a card game, 6 years is forever, and that's how long we've been playing with some of these cards.
Yeah,
I think we ended up playing with these cards longer, almost as long or longer than we played with the Fantasy Flight cards. Hard to remember.
yeah. I mean, people are still ostensibly playing Legacy out there, so maybe they're still playing with cards that are 10 years old, 15 years old. I can't. How old is UFS now? I think it's is it 10?
It is 10 years old.
10th
I
anniversary
think,
this year.
yeah, it's not as been as exciting as we hoped it would, Ben, but it is 10 years, and when I was 10 years old, I was a little shit, so I wouldn't want to think being 10 years old is a big deal.
Yeah, it's
Once
a pretty
UFS
long-lived card game. Uh,
Now, once UFS can get its driver's license, or more importantly, when it can give consent, then I'll be more excited.
hey, it's an international game, and there's some permissive laws around the world, but let's not talk about that.
We have something exciting to announce. We are offering a price reduction on the Battle for Power pre-release kits that we're selling to our customers. So instead of $600, we're going to be offering them for $576. So in effect, what that's going to do for our players, Kevin, is they're going to get the 8 booster boxes, which is normally $576. But then basically for free, you're going to get the playmats, the promos, and the poster.
Sean, for all that you hate Price Chopper, you seem to be going with their philosophy on sales. Just keep cutting the prices.
I gotta keep up with the neighbors, and one of my neighbors did drop the price, and I can't just let all my sales go to them.
That's a fair point.
So that's a nice price reduction, and remember to get those pre-orders in for Battle for Power to make sure you get yours. I think everybody wants to get theirs, so get it in so I can make money and you guys can have nice shiny cards in your hand for the 26th.
Yep, that's that. The Darkstalker sold out in a hot second. We'll have to see if this new, it's called Battle for Power, right? I just brain farted that. If Battle for Power sells out too, and you'll be happy you got those pre-orders in. And not to take away the thunder from the Battle for Power release, but today on Facebook, one Chris Gilman posted an email from Jasco Games that there is a set release date for the next set after that, Blood Omen, and some pictures of the packaging, and that's slated for the 21st of October, so only 2 months later, we'll have another set of UFS cards.
You see, Kevin Broberg, this is giving me nightmares.
Yeah?
Because I remember, and I think the audience might remember out there as well, last time we had 2 sets released this closely together, it was Rise of the Masters and Warriors of the Night, and then we didn't have cards for 11 months.
Yeah. I feel like there's several unflattering metaphors here about blowing your load, having whatever. I guess that's the only metaphor I have here, but that's the concern, certainly, is that we're too excited to get all these things rushed out the door, and that'll be the end of it for a little while.
Now, I certainly hope not. I feel like Jasco's actually started getting their shit together, because they did release a set back in May. They're going to release a set in August, and then if they release a set in October, they were kind of right about on schedule for a normal CCG release. And, you were talking about blowing your load. What I want to see is if Jasco Games has the stamina and the keeping power to keep up at this rate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the most important thing, really, is the stamina and just getting a rhythm and keeping it.
That's the biggest thing we've always lacked in UFS is consistency. As much as people like to poop on Steve Horvath and they like to poop on, Dave Freeman, they release sets on time every time. They release 2 sets on time every time.
Yeah,
at the same time.
We were reminiscing about all the old sets and how we'd get, 2 every 3 months like clockwork. It was 2 full sets, hundreds of cards.
Yeah, 198 cards every 3 months, which I think was a little excessive. I don't want to ever get back to that again because that would just break the bank. And I think that hurt UFS a lot. I think poor design happened because there were too many cards coming out. But we've had the opposite end where, we've had no cards coming out and some questionable design choices like Ever Hopeful.
I like Ever Hopeful. I think Ever Hopeful is great.
Now, I'm really excited about that release, and I don't know if folks have noticed, when Red Horizon rotates out, there are a couple of cards that are going to be staying in now that you may have forgotten about. I had received my backing from the Exceed fighting system.
Oh, yeah.
And inside of it were 3 white border promos. There was a white border Natali, 1 dot, a white border Death Valley Faceplant, and a white border Silence. And the important thing to note about those, especially with the rotation of Red Horizon coming up, is these 3 white border promo cards have Tri-Swords logos.
Yep. So if you're worried about not being able to chip shot anyone out with life gaining throws, don't worry. The Death Valley Faceplant will survive.
Well, that would have been good till Blood Omen, and I think it was common knowledge that that was going to get a reprint. But for a minute, if these cards hadn't came out, Natalian Silence would have cycled.
Yep.
So we get to keep those. So that's exciting. And I think that really wraps up the main news items, except for the kind of the exciting news for this week. And that's
Yeah.
going to be some spoilers. Kevin
News
Broberg, what do we got for our
spoilers.
first spoiler?
All right. Let's rearrange our scene a little bit and show off Base, the new character card spoiler we got this week.
Oh, there
Uh,
are so many base fanboys out there.
all right. So yeah, Base is a 6 hand size, 26 vitality. He's got normal difficulty, 6 difficulty, 6 control. The air, earth, and void symbols, and 2 pretty fascinating abilities. So first off, he says after your save attack gets a damage penalty, it gets +3 damage. And so this doesn't specify where the damage penalty came from. You can reduce your own attacks, your opponent can reduce your attacks. You just get a flat three damage back whenever that happens. And then his second ability is a once per turn enhance with a cost of discarding a safe card from your card pool. And then the effect is to force your opponent to add 1 card from their hand to their card pool. Oh, this isn't even face down. I didn't notice that.
No, it's face up.
That's
So,
interesting.
well, this card could be used with if we remember Nightman's reversal that locked a card in your opponent's staging area. I mean, as long as if you blocked with a safe attack, or
Yeah.
even if you just play a safe attack after, I mean, if you play a Nightman's card after you use Base's ability, I mean, you could lock a card in their card pool not only for your turn but their turn as well.
Oh yeah, That's actually really spicy because that's probably the best time really because like giving your attacks +1 speed that's an ability that'll vary in value. You're not always attacking them. You're not always pressuring them on speed, but giving them +1 progressive during their turn is always going to be worth something. They have to, at the very least, take some risks and possibly commit some resources, possibly change how they're going to play based on having that extra progressive difficulty. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be very powerful. That's a pretty exciting card, I think. I really, overall at first I kind of thought Base was kind of underwhelming,
Yep.
but I mean his abilities seem really good. His ability laughs at like the Wall of Goro.
Well, actually, that's a poor choice of cards. The Wall of Gore actually doesn't give damage penalties. It reduces the
Oh, you're
amount of
right.
damage that attacks deal during the damage step. Um, but a card like Athena's Knight gets dunked on. Um, uh,
Oh, yep.
Defensive 8,000 degrees, not having a good time. Always
Offensive
watching.
8,000 degrees is good with him.
Yep, he
You
gets
give your attack -1 damage and give it +2 for committing a foundation,
yep
and you
plus two
still get to
total.
choose what to do later.
Yeah, so if your opponent runs out of cards in their hand, suddenly all your 8,000 degrees add up to 4 damage each across the 2 attacks. If
Hmm.
you can guarantee they all hit, so that's quite good. Heart of the Mountain does double duty, adds 2 damage now. Anytime you see -1 damage to either like to whatever attack, that's going to be something to look out for. I think for a short little while, for 2 months now, he's going to be able to play with Gabrik's weird cards that give damage penalties for miscellaneous effects. Although, come to think of it, I know one of the things of Eternal Remorse is -2 damage, and if your deck is less than printed, you get a momentum, but his attacks won't be less than printed because he's going to use his response.
Now, you actually suffers really badly against this guy. It's something like BB Hood.
Um,
That's good. Doesn't BB Hood grant a damage penalty after?
I believe the way she actually works specifically, she changes the bonus, so she
Oh,
reduces the
okay.
size of the bonus. So BB hit is actually pretty good against base because that +3 turns into a +2. But
That's not so bad then.
if she is, if you're a BB Hood deck playing homemade explosives in 8,000 degrees, and these are damage reduction toys to complement that ability to mitigate damage pumps, you're gonna walk headlong into this response.
Hmm.
One thing I do want to say about this character, and it's kind of like an abstract design philosophy thing. We used to see cards like Nailed It or like When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain. and I thought those were really harmful to the design space of the game because while they did keep certain abilities in check, they checked free enhances like on things like Gemini Man or on Jack Lamborn or whatever, like just free abilities that you play on every attack, and that was positive. They also prevented designs like this from existing or from being remotely competitive, where that after your save gets a damage penalty 3 damage, that's kind of fairly costed because you have to jump through some hoops during deck building to really maximize it, or else you're just reacting to what your opponent does and cutting off their options. And so if I have a giant pile of defense in my staging area, and because I have nailed it out, I can just with impunity reduce all the damage on this. That's no good, and that's being harmful.
Mhm.
So I'm glad we're seeing designs like this that are a little bit more clever while still being technically free abilities. Um, it's cool to see it get mixed up a little bit, and hopefully we're not going to see more uh, unpleasantly powerful anti-reuse effects.
So you want to start talking about some attacks?
Yeah, so in addition to base this week, we have 4 new attacks that are spoiled that are directly relevant to him. First up, let's talk about Dark Comet.
I want to read this one.
Yeah,
All right, so Dark Comet is a 6 difficulty attack, 2 control check with a +3 mid block. If Hughes was here, he'd be like, 2 control.
yeah, these
But I
stats
think
are
there's a
not
lot.
these stats are not great.
But it is a 4 high for 8. It is ranged and safe.
Yep.
And it says discard a card from your opponent's card pool. Your opponent adds 1 card from their hand to their card pool. So this is like some sneaky get around discarding effects discard, just like Base's ability is. And there's a lot of things I think going for it, if that's all right. So there are ways to force your opponent to put cards in your card pool that aren't Base. I mean, there's cards in
Yep.
Andy's support, well, Fatal Fury support that just cram cards in there. If you lead off with something that your opponent wants to block,
Yep,
they
that's
got a block in
one
there.
easy way to get a card in their card pool. Turns out.
And it's safe. So if they try to damage reduce your 4 high for 8, you give it +3 damage, and it has 2 keywords, which is something that matches with one of Hughes's favorite cards, Rain Flush.
Yeah, which is also a very high-profile attack with the safe keyword, as it turns out. And many of
Right.
the other cards with safe tend to have at least one other keyword on top of that, and so they all tend to kind of cluster together and make sense together.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been more attacks printed lately with more keywords, I think, than back in the old days, for sure. And especially in this Megaman block, where the safe keyword actually started being printed on cards frequently. And Mega Man cards typically are ranged and have some other keyword.
Yep. Yeah, you see a lot of two
So
keywords, so Rain Flush works really well, and this ability to this ability plus Base's ability to kind of do this sneaky discard can really put a lot of strain on your opponent's ability just to play blocks, and then an easy to pay for multiple attack like Rain Flush is a great way to take advantage.
yeah, especially it's a 2-pronged attack, because not only are you ripping blocks from their hand, but you're also adding to progressive difficulty. So it's a double whammy.
Yep.
Now
Yeah.
there are some things really against this card though that make me unsure I'm going to run it. It's a 6 difficulty attack, and which makes it really hard to play, at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
Ton of ways to mitigate the 6 difficulty,
Yeah.
because on turn 2, if you play a 6 difficulty move and you roll a 2, that could potentially end your turn.
Yeah, it could end the turn, and it could, you could if you choose to tap out to pass that, you could be just setting yourself up to get destroyed on the backswing, just like that. And this card is almost kind of not even a 6 difficulty because you really want to follow it or use it to follow up another attack, either to set up Base's ability or to bait out a block or to bait out some other effect where your opponent will put a card into their card pool so you can rip it out to pay for that cost.
Yeah, you really want to have a safe card before this to really maximize on Base's stuff. So I think a lot of times people may be tempted to play this as a 7 difficulty move, and then you get into weird situations where if you played an attack as your first form and it was safe, but your opponent blocked with a breaker block, and now Dark Comet's going to be on 8 or 9 difficulty. And that's going to put any deck in rough shape. Even if you're on turn 4 or 5, you have to check against a 9, and even if you roll a 5, you're still going to commit 4 foundations.
Yeah, although at that point you check your 9 and you rip out, let's say you use base ability, then this ability, so you have a Silent Assassin ready in your staging area. You just ripped out 3 more cards from their hands and put a 10 damage move into the card pool. And then if you follow up with, say, an 8,000 degrees enhance and 1 more move, you might just be winning the game on the spot, even with all that.
Or you might not have enough and get bopped pretty hard on the backswing.
Yeah, for all that base has going for him, his abilities are purely offensive. He's a damage pump, and I believe it's a your turn enhance. Or no, it's once per turn.
Once per turn, so
yeah,
you
can do this on reversals even. It's pretty gross.
Well, it's not during your attack. It's once per turn. So if you block with a safe card, you can...
Okay, that's disgusting. That's super good.
Yeah, so blocking with safe cards is really good for him.
Wow.
If you block with like a Karame Dama, and then you rip a card into their card pool on their turn, their -1 hand size going back into your turn. That's where base is secretly broken, and I don't think anyone's really discussed that yet.
I certainly didn't even realize that until just literally this conversation.
Yeah. That makes him bonkers. He's going to see quite a bit of play. I don't know if he's going to win tournaments, but I think a lot of people are going to play him.
Yeah, I know I said this, and there was just kind of like a random, just like, hey, what's your opinion of base thread? I think the base, and he's going up now in my estimation. From I thought he was like a mid card, average character. He's solid. He's got some toys. He's gonna be fun to build around because you get to find all these, incidental damage redux cards that get a lot better because of the +3. And also, if there's a dedicated damage redux deck, if they're like a deck like Clark or something, if there's a dedicated reversal deck, and then you get to play a deck that's got 17 safe moves, you're gonna have a much better time with that than other characters. And so that's he could have a place in the metagame preying on those kinds of decks. And if there's a metagame
and
where
those decks are popular right now,
yeah, where there's tons and tons of those kinds of decks, he might be able to climb up the standings and take a high finish. And that defensive resource of blocking with safes and then adding a progressive difficulty while taking out of his own progressive difficulty and completing your opponent's hand on their own turn, that's quite good.
That's actually concerning. That could put him in some scary territory.
Well,
as to whether or not he could potentially in the future get tapped with a hammer.
He does only have 26 vitality, so if you just hit him hard, make him mix up his zones, get in some chip shot damage on half blocks, and then hold back good defenses. That might be the best way to take him out. Cards like Powerful Assassin.
He's gonna be incredibly good against.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Powerful Assassin. No. Powerful Assassin's quite good. Cards like Powerful Assassin, Ever Hopeful, Dauntless Hero, Homemade Explosives. These are all very valuable ways to kind of protect yourself against this incidental discard. You kind of progress your board and force him to play. If we're talking about a 7 difficulty Dark Comet, and you have a bunch of cards in your staging that you draw cards to still be able to block, that's going to make it really hard for him to go in for those highly expensive, high-impact attack turns.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the 6/2 makes Dark Comet kind of questionable for all decks, but it's going to find a home. It's going to find a home, I think, in Andy. I think it'll be really good in there. It's going to be good in any deck that runs Shoryu Dam.
Yep. It gives you some nice little synergies to build around. While also, I mean, just 4 high for 8 are pretty good stats. Like, that's Concussion Blast, and this has an enhanced step and lots of other things going for it.
If we get out Sean O'Brien's Price-O-Meter, this is an ultra rare card.
Yep.
I'm probably going to list this card around $15. It's a big flashy card. It does a lot of things.
Looking at this art, I can imagine this being a really pretty foil.
Yeah, this is also the playmat art for the pre-release kit. So I think it's really good. But enough about Dark Comet. I want to move on to cards with 3 checks.
All right, next up we got Rocket Buster. This card has a lot of keywords.
It's 4 of them. Think it's gonna be really good
Uh,
with what is it? Weapons upgrade.
are you looking at the same Rocket Buster that I'm looking at? I count charge, punch, ranged, safe, stun one. That's 5, buddy.
That is 5 keywords. That is a shitload of keywords. So I want to read again. So it's a
Sure.
5 difficulty, 3 check attack with a +2 mid block. His attack blocks are just not very good. 4 high for 5. Charge, punch, ranged, safe, and stun 1. And this really annoying base E. Base E, this attack gets -1 damage and +1 speed.
Yeah, so you can turn it from, if you're base, you get a 5 speed high for 7 damage, which are pretty freaking respectable stats. That's quite solid. We've seen Burrito up here is, I think, actually is in 5 speed, even. It's 3 speed. So yeah, that's unusually fast for that kind of big damage, and it just comes out for free like that. I really dislike this base E because it just didn't need to say base E. It could have just been a 5 high for 4 or a 4 high for 5 for everyone else in the cast. Why not just do that?
Well, what I'm interested to see, and the thought just popped into my head, is maybe base's support does things for, a damage penalty, and maybe they don't want characters who aren't base to be able to stack up these damage bonuses as easily as base can with these cards.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
they want people to work a little more for it.
More things with the same response trigger as base, but other various interesting effects.
Yeah. And maybe the designers felt that if every attack had something that everybody could do it might just be too easy, and maybe wanted to be reserved just for base. I don't know. I don't do that stuff no more.
Yeah, it's really glaring to me. Like, this is just such a small effect. You should just be able to let people build around it. Actually, you did mention on a less negative note, it does have a poor block. I wonder if that's an intentional design choice to make it so that base doesn't get too oppressive with his block with safe trick to rip apart your hand. If all of his attacks have +2 modifier mid blocks. I'm thinking of other safe attacks we currently have. I'm just coming up with Karame Dama and Rain Flush are both +2 modifiers, and Rain Flush is the only one that's off mid that I can think of. And it's got a +3 high block, which is basically a foundation block at that point. To go with its 2-check on top of that.
Well, I'm doing some quick research into safe attacks that base can play. Aerial Assault's a +2. Everywhere's a +3. Slaughter Horse is a +3. Karame Dama is a +2. Saranagiri is a +2. Rain Flush is a +3. Snake Slam's a +1.
Saranagiri is a very nice one. It's a breaker 2 high block.
Yeah.
I think that might be approaching a staple status for a base. Especially because if you play a card like Rolling Cutter or just another, that's you get a really good scale up in the late game, because you give your weapons multiple too. Your relatively low difficulty weapons. So
there was an attack for
damage.
Now that I'm looking at attacks, there is an attack I forgot about for base that might actually see some play with him.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at Cole 45, because that's an attack with flash and safe.
Okay.
Which your opponent can't screw you around before you play. Like, you follow that up with like a Dark Comet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe and it's got a +2 high block.
That might have some legs. I don't know how I feel about letting my opponent draw cards, but maybe if they only have 1 or 2 cards in their hand, and I'm going to rip all those out, that could work just fine.
Yeah, you let them draw a second card, and you're just gonna put them away with your Dark Comet and base anyhow.
Yep. No, that's really cool. That's a good find. It's I think a card that hasn't seen much play, and I think it's great that base is gonna give people an excuse to go back in and dust off the old Santa Claus claws.
Ho ho ho. But back to I'm sorry, I've been wandering so much tonight. Back to Rocket Buster. That is a shitload of keywords. Good thing Paid to Protect doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, this card does share a symbol with a certain character, 2-dot character with 5 difficulty that cares about stacking up keywords. So Mr. Megaman can turn this into, if he really, really wants to, he can have a 4 high for 11 powerful 2 stun 1.
That seems pretty good.
Yeah, for the low cost.
You're going to want to block that one.
Yeah. Maybe they were worried about it being a 5 high for 10, powerful 2, stun 1, safe ranged punch cards.
Wow. So, I mean, before I completely pass judgment about the base E, I want to see his foundations, and maybe the design will make more sense when that happens.
Yep. Hey, maybe this is a punch for Felicia. Maybe that's coming up too. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see what else goes on. What kind of
Oh shit, this is a punch.
things were being flagged for balance there. I think Felicia has better things to do than this, but maybe just 4 high for 5 punches are good enough.
Well, speaking of things that Felicia can do that are better, let's talk about somersault kick.
All right. All right. I'm gonna read this one off. So somersault kick. It's another common, but this one's got a bit more exciting stuff going on. It's a 4 difficulty 3 control, +1 mid block, 3 speed low for 4. So these are nice square stats. Same speed as control, same difficulty as damage. 4 difficulty 4 damage is nice straight off. It's got kick and safe, and it's got an enhanced with another unusual cost. So it says enhanced change the attack zone to high, colon. So you get that no matter what happens. And then the effect is this attack gets -1 damage and add one face down card from your opponent's staging area to their card pool.
This is the 1% getting richer, Kevin Broberg. The 1% being Felicia.
Why don't you walk me through why?
Okay, so and I'm not going to do the Bernie Sanders voice, but here's the thing. This is probably going to be the only kick in the set.
Yep.
Right?
Sure.
Because the first Megaman set really didn't have much as far as kicks and punches goes, or it was mostly slams and ranged. So I don't imagine this set's going to have a ton of kicks either. And add a face down card from your opponent's staging area to your card pool just adds to Felicia, taking from the common UFS player and not paying her fair share. So imagine this turn, Kevin Broberg. So I'm playing as Felicia. I draw up my opponent finishes their turn, and I review a Black Justice.
Oh, I've been there. I like where we're going. Good start.
Okay. So I'm going to play a somersault kick.
Okay.
And I'm going to add my Ever Hopeful to my hand, and you're going to bounce Foundation.
Good start.
And then I'm going to change the zone to high, and you're going to take another Foundation from your staging area and add it to your card pool. So far this turn you're down 3 Foundations. And you do your Felicia shit, +3 speed, blah, 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 blah. You resolve this attack. But I'm not done yet. Felicia's not done yet.
I just want to point out that you get to choose what the face down is. So even if they had face downs that they had committed on their turn to pay for costs and stuff, but maybe they played a revoke for a form, or if they just didn't have to commit all of them, you can often pick off a ready foundation with the somersault kick. And Ever Hopeful obviously gives you a choice, so that's almost always going to be a ready foundation too. So they're down 3 ready foundations.
Black Justice has to be a ready foundation.
Yep.
So they're down 3 ready foundations. But I'm not done yet.
Yeah,
I'm not done taking from the middle class of UFS players.
We've only played one attack so far. This is only a 3 speed high for 3 damage kick at this point too. That's pretty tiny.
It's a 6 speed high for 3 kick, okay? Because it's Felicia.
Who cares? It's tiny.
So the 1% haven't had enough yet. So they're going to play a Roberts up smash giant monster kick.
Yep, using Kyaku.
So they're going to give it 3 speed. They're going to destroy 2 more foundations. So if that remembers me correctly, the tally is now up to 5 foundations you've lost this turn. Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh, and
Black Justice.
If you didn't block the somersault kick, that was also a +2 to its check using Kyaku. So it was basically like a 4 difficulty kick.
Right. And this is providing you're not doing any more Ever Hopeful bullshit because you have 10,000 momentum.
Yep.
Then you play Ryujin Kyaku. So you're down 5 foundations.
And now this Ryujin Kyaku, after taking out 5 of your foundations, is a 7 speed high for 9 damage kick.
Yep. And that's assuming you did not play an Ever Hopeful after your somersault kick. And bring it down.
Well, it does sound like this is going to help end the game, Sean O'Brien. These staging areas get out of control sometimes.
Yeah, this is going to help Felicia end the game. I don't want to bitch, but it seems like Jasco Games is either unwilling or unable to rein in Air Felicia. They just keep giving her stuff.
Well, they gave her Dragon Flare.
Yeah,
They gave
I
her call. They
guess.
gave her Call the Storm. They gave her, Armor Expert. These Wallbuster tools, and
Yeah,
they're
you
good
you played at the
cards.
Atlanta PTC. What did those things do to you?
They committed 8 of my foundations and made me have to hit like runner perfect to win. I didn't play against Armor Expert, but it's pretty good
I don't know. I just feel like they just put another great tool into her arsenal.
for sure, for sure. Um,
And like I said, I don't. I think they're just unwilling to rein her in.
yeah, I think one of the yeah uh, resource advantage cards definitely have the ability to chain into each other. Like as you were saying, if you destroy 5 of your opponent's foundations, that's a lot better than destroying 2 of their foundations 3 times
Hmm.
because you can put them in a place where they have absolutely no recourse. If they like you blow up 5 of their foundations, they draw their hand. If there's no foundations in it, they have to attack you with their tiny staging area and run right into your breaker and reversals and stuff, and have a bad time that way.
Yeah, this
One,
this attack will help put people into the Stone Age even more.
yeah.
Yeah.
One bad thing about this card is that it is a tiny damage attack. It only does 4 or 3. Um, so some Felicia decks might have trouble finishing out the game after they start. They keep chipping away with these tiny moves. And one cool little interaction with it that I can't imagine was unintentional is it's play with Push the Limit. So a card that shares both air and earth to force your opponent to make a face down, and then you can somersault kick it right away.
The rich get richer, Kevin Broberg.
Hey,
Not only, and I
just trying to.
forgot to huff and puff about this a little bit, but remember this card puts a face down to their card pool, which effectively makes all your Felicia kicks faster.
So it does. Maybe Earth Andy needs
Faster.
this though.
Earth Andy needs it, but Felicia didn't.
This is like
And that's what I feel like. Every card they print for air right now is, well, this symbol needed something, this symbol needed something, but you know what symbol didn't need it? Air.
And hey, like you got to cut something to make room for this card from Felicia, and like you don't want to cut a card. It's got a mediocre block. It's got a +1 mid block. You've got mids really covered. You're not cutting Ryujin Kyakus for this card. You're not cutting Templars for this card. Are you cutting Rolling Uppercuts? This card's really great. It's only a 3 difficulty and it's got powerful 3. So it'll be
Isn't that the
interesting.
card you said you'd cut?
I don't think so. I think I might have said I would cut it, and then I didn't cut any, and I played 3 anyway. I cut Assassination Attempt instead because that card's too swingy, too bad when it's bad, and not good enough when it's good. It's
Hmm.
like it's fine when it's good, but it's not amazing.
Now back to this card on its own in a vacuum, though. Felicia aside, if Felicia didn't exist, I think this would be a fine card.
Yeah, I think this is
I
this is
think
pretty cool.
if it wasn't for Felicia and Ever Hopeful, I think this would be a great combo piece for a normal deck to run with
Yep.
Robert's big kick. So if someone was like Robert was playing this, or Andy was playing this, or how even Airman was playing this,
Yeah.
that'd be fine. But it just feels really, really dumb that Felicia gets to do this. And Felicia gets to do just about everything right now. Not everything. And don't I know you're gonna jump in there and be like, well, she doesn't get to do this, she doesn't get to do that. She gets to do almost everything
What doesn't
with
she
her
get to do?
toolbox.
She gets to do a lot. I'm not gonna take that away from you. She absolutely does get to do a lot.
She doesn't get to revoke. Off of air, that's the only thing she really doesn't get to do.
She doesn't get to play the game when you hit her with How Heat and Kyaku. Just keep discarding all of her momentum every turn.
So that's somersault kick. I'm feeling better now after my rant.
All right.
And let's talk about our box topper.
All right. Yeah. We got a promotional card, Dark Laser.
Dark Laser, 4 difficulty, 2 check. 4 mid for 4 with a +2 high block. It has powerful 2, safe, and ranged. So this E is really powerful, by the way. E colon.
Real quick, did you say it had a +2 high block?
Yeah.
So that's an important high block for our base deck to be screwing with people's turns.
So it gets -1 damage and +2 to its powerful rating. And so for -1 damage, getting powerful 4 seems really good, especially since you're going to get +3 damage from base.
And why don't you read that second sentence too?
Add 1 safe attack from your discard pile to your momentum.
Yep, so you pay your -1 damage, and really it's not even remotely a cost because you immediately get a bump to your powerful rating and an extra momentum, which then is suddenly worth 2 more damage than it was before. So this thing is like printed stats of 4 mid for 7, powerful 4.
I really hope the box toppers for this set are foil, because that giant laser thing will look super good with the new rainbow foil.
Yeah, that'll be pretty sexy.
So I'm really hoping the box toppers foil like back in the old days.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this attack's very solid. I don't think you can make a powerful 4 attack at 4 difficulty without it being a 1 or 2 check.
Yeah, no, for sure not. I like powerful 3, powerful 4, powerful 5. This isn't a territory where your card has to be limited in some way. Like Ultimate Undead was a very powerful card as a powerful 3 6 difficulty with a 3 control. Rolling Uppercut's a very good card. I think an underrated card at a powerful 3 print 2 printed damage. And this card's starts off at 7 damage. If you put 2 momentum into it of your own, it's up to 15. It's nearly one-shotting some of the cast. And Earth can very easily one-shot someone with this card. It's a great way to I think it's going to be a great one-of to include in your Head Crush throw decks. Just be able to fish it up mid-late game when you think your opponent's shields are going down.
Catch them with their pants down without a mid block.
And,
I mean, if you got a partial block this.
Oh yeah, you're gonna die.
I mean, it's got powerful 4. It's still gonna do big damage.
Yep. Raiden can't make it a throw. Actually, I was gonna say Raiden.
He cannot because it has powerful. I was gonna make all my Raiden fanboys out there upset when I said that Raiden cannot make this a throw.
One cool thing you can do with this card is that each of its symbols actually has the ability to add +1 to its powerful rating. There's Focus Charge on Air and Earth, and the Void symbol has Weapons Upgrade. So if you want +5 damage, you want to start this off at 8 damage and stack it up to 13 or 18. It's one quick card away.
Well, was it Burning Blitz Vortex is the powerful 5 promo we had earlier this year?
That
also rolls a 2. So I mean, I usually 2 checks are kind of a turnoff, but I think a 2 check is very appropriate here.
Oh, for sure.
So I think people are going to run this. You're going to get one of these for every box that you open. And remember, you could get 8 boxes of Battle for Power for only $576. That includes 4 playmats, a poster, and promos.
Yeah, $576 sounds like a lot. It is 3 digits, but for what you get, it's an incredible value. That's completely worth your time to get together with your friends to stack up that money and really stack up your product, because that's what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
You get 2 full play sets of this incredible Dark Laser card. I don't know if it's a 4-of kind of card. It is a 4-speed mid, which is eminently blockable in this world with people playing Templar and all kinds of +0 mid blocks, +1 mid block attacks. But it's also going to make it so that you have to play those cards and makes you a little bit more vulnerable to things like Snake Man or Rainflush, High Overload kind of stuff.
And like all of Base's cards, you can't get reversaled. And that's something that's, especially with Air being so good right now, he is really shitty about mid attacks. Air is really good at blocking mids between Templar and Up Smash and other mid blocks you can run in your deck.
Ever hopeful.
Ever hopeful. And then you immediately get Navosed. But with all of Base's stuff, you don't. You don't get Navosed. And all of Base's stuff does match a symbol with Rochester CCG.
Hey. If you're worried about your opponent's powerful 4 attacks, Rochester CCG can take that momentum out. Can make your attacks safe, too. And protect you from Ever Hopeful.
One of the people out in the chat mentioned that Focus Charge helps with the speed as well. Yep. Focus Charge is going to do a lot for this card. It's going to give you +1 powerful rating and 3 speed. So now if you're staring down a 7 speed mid for after Base doing his shenanigans for 7 speed mid for 6, with Powerful 4.
Yup.